Well, hello there, and welcome to the stream. Finally got going after a few little issues there. So, hello everybody. Glad you could join me. For those who are joining, and for those who are watching post live, I thought it would be a good idea to do a stream about Star Trek Voyager. Now, Star Trek Voyager is a bit of an oddball for me, really, because I have relatively mixed feelings about that show. So yeah, it's I thought it about high time I did one. Now, I've done a previous stream about Star Trek Deep Space Nine and how much I love Star Trek Deep Space Nine through all its flaws and its issues. I enjoyed the slightly darker tone of Deep Space Nine. It painted the whole world of Starfleet and the Federation in a slightly different way, and it was a change of form. I'm trying to get comfortable here. It was a change of form for Star Trek. It was no longer on a ship; it was on a space station. And for Voyager, they went in a slightly different direction to that. They set it once again on a starship, and it was kind of interesting, really, because the way that they marketed the show was it was a ship lost in a faraway quadrant of the galaxy. And and the phrase "missed opportunity" keeps coming to mind and keeps cropping up when I talk about Voyager, because if you have a show set on a ship that is essentially far away from home, and their one mission is to get back home, you have within that story endless possibilities, and they could have really opened the door to a lot of different stories, and in some respects they did, but in most respects it was too safe and too clean a show, considering the Next Generation. Now, some have described Voyager as the Next Generation light. I suppose in some ways that's quite accurate, really, because Voyager was a very safe show. There wasn't a massive amount of over sort of arcing consequences to the crew. And I think that when I think of missed opportunities, I think one of the biggest missed opportunities of that show is having consequences that lasted episodes, or hell, even a season at this point. Welcome to everybody who's just joining. It's great to have you here. While I prattle on about Star Trek Voyager, feel free to leave comments, and I will address them hopefully as they come in. So yeah, Voyager was a bit of a like I say, missed chance to really go a little bit more survivalist than they did, and it was a show with the first female captain, the first female lead, should I say, of a Star Trek show, and it really, I think they did a good job of finding the right woman for the job. And Janeway's character is a bit of a conundrum at times as well, because she is really she's very sort of high and mighty at times, and she is very sort of opinionated and very stubborn as a captain, She believes she's doing the right thing with a lot of what happens in the show. But I don't know. There was... let me just refresh the chat here. Let me just... apologies for this unprofessional behaviour. Yeah, she was a conundrum, because at times she made superb choices, and other times she made dire ones. Now, I want to go through some of my favourite episodes and some of my least favourite episodes, as we go along here. Obviously, I'll address your comments as well. But the Voyager pilot, I think, set up things pretty well. You know, it had that little crossover with Deep Space Nine, and you had Quark and you had Kim, with their little back and forths, and Quark just being a devious little sod as he always is. And I enjoyed that to and fro between Quark and Kim. And, you know, the Voyager lays in a course for the Badlands to go after a Marquis ship. Now, I liked the concept of the Marquis, because it was something that spread across all 3 series. The Marquis were, I think, it was a great storyline. And I just recently watched the DS9 two-parter, The Marquis, where they're first sort of born, I suppose. The idea is born from that episode. And generally speaking, I thought it was a great little group that really sort of did break the mold of what a Federation citizen would be, is supposed to be. So Voyager is on a mission to chase after them, to go after them, and to find them, because Janeway's security officer, we later discover is Tuvok, is on that ship, and it goes missing, and then they're catapulted into the Delta Quadrant. I just thought it was a great setup, a really great setup, and I understand from budgetary reasons why they didn't, instantly destroy the sets or damage the sets in any way or anything like that. But as an opening, it was much too clean in my liking. Don't get me wrong, the initial damage that they suffered as a result of the being catapulted, there was certainly damage to the ship, and I think they lost a few crew members in that episode. But if you think of that episode as a good starting point for the tone of the show sort of takes a different path with regards to the survivalist nature of the way the story is being told, or the idea of the story itself. So yeah, I think Caretaker set it up. It was a little too clean for my liking, but at the same time, it wasn't. It had such potential. So yeah, Caretaker was a good start. But as the seasons went on, I mean, there was a lot of stories that were being told. But as the seasons went on, it was almost like the ship would magically fix itself at the end of every episode and be pristine by the time it came out by the time it came to the next episode. They'd have fixed the ship. Now, just as an example, when you watch Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, and the Enterprise is returning to space dock, to Earth, and it has had to be patched up because it hasn't had the resources of the starbase or an outpost to be able to fix the ship properly. So it's limping home, battered quite badly, as a result with the battle with Khan in the previous movie, and that's a good carryover. The Enterprise is quite badly scarred at this point. You can notice the patchwork that has been done out on the outside of the hull, and that is pretty much what I was kind of expecting in terms of Voyager, and that's not what we got. Voyager looks pristine every single episode. That we did have a few moments where the ship was damaged, and so on and so forth, but it always looked way too clean. Everybody's way too well, like I say, pristine. So there was a good potential there for carryover, and a good chance to see the previous episodes' consequences bleed into other episodes. Now, Enterprise did this obviously towards the latter half of season 3. The latter half of season 3 was brilliant because the Enterprise was damaged, and it remained damaged for at least 7 episodes. Badly damaged, had big holes in the ship, and so on and so forth. So that was really good. I found that was really good. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm just sorting out some technical stuff. And feel free to leave a chat. In fact, can someone test the chat just to make sure the chat is working okay and everything's good? I might actually just test the chat myself. Ah, there we go. It is working. That's my other channel, by the way. Shameless, shameful plug. But yes, carryover. Very important in the show. And I think that although there were a few episodes that did do it, the biggest example of this, and what pissed me off so much, which is weird because... Bog Body, how are you? Thanks for the test, mate. It's working. It was an episode in season 2. I believe it was season 2, called Deadlock. Now, Deadlock I thought was superb because they thought, you know what, let's just... Is it season 2? Deadlock is season 2, isn't it? Yeah, Deadlock is season 2. Yeah, they decided to just trash the set. They decided to have this episode where Voyager is duplicated, and both ships are operating in the same sort of space, but slightly out of phase with one another. And I think I've mentioned this in previous streams, where you have the episode is where the ship has been duplicated, and there's a rift between the two ships. And there's a chance for the episode and the show to sort of flirt with killing off crew members. And they killed off Harry Kim in that episode. But because they've got the sort of back alley cop-out, I suppose, where he is... his duplicate goes onto the ship that survives. So technically Harry didn't die, or Harry did die, but Harry's still alive. Same with Naomi Wildman's kid. Is it no, not Naomi. Naomi Wildman is the kid. Sorry, Samantha Wildman. Yes, same with Samantha Wildman's kid, Naomi Wildman. And the ship that ends up surviving in the end, and I always thought it was again a great concept, but a missed opportunity. The ship that survives and isn't destroyed is the ship that's heavily damaged. The ship that is crippled, absolutely crippled by these I think they're called proton bursts, that the other Voyager was emitting to stop fuel decay. Because both ships were draining the same source of antimatter. Only, the duplication process only duplicated the ship, not the fuel. So both ships were drawing power from the same source of fuel. And the proton bursts were there to designed to stop it. But the ship that survived is the one that's badly damaged, and it is badly damaged. The bridge is destroyed. It's on, it's in ruin. The hull, the bulkheads have fallen down. The last time we saw the bridge, it was on fire. It was a mess. Engineering was a mess. The corridors were a mess. The ship was just in tatters. And by the end of the episode, no word of a lie, by the end of the episode, they've gotten the Hoover out, put the ship back together, and by the next episode, it is like it's just come out of space dock. It is essentially a fresh coat of paint. And I never trusted the show again after that episode to have consequences, bleed out throughout. Now, sort of contrary to that point, but to further reiterate that point I'm trying to make is, I take you to the episode, the two-parter across seasons 6 and 7, I believe, or was it 5 and 6? It's called Equinox Part 1 and 2, where there's another ship that was dragged in by the caretaker to the Delta Quadrant, and it's a science vessel. It's a much less capable vessel of deep space travel. It's not capable of doing that without severe survival difficulties. And the Equinox has been travelling, I won't go into too much detail with the episode just yet, but it's been travelling a fair way for a fair amount of time. And it is in tatters. It is in tatters. And the captain, Rudy Ransom, he's guided his crew certainly through the earlier years that the Equinox was in the Delta Quadrant. He's guided the crew through catastrophe after catastrophe after catastrophe, and the ship shows it. It's worn, it's falling apart, it's burnt to a crisp on the inside. The bridge is in tatters, and the ship stays that way. They're not able to repair the ship. And there's bits in that episode which sort of ring true, especially when Ransom says to Janeway, it's easy to stick to your principles when your ship's not falling apart around you and it's not manned by a crew that's starving. And I thought, that sounds like a much more interesting show. The Equinox sounds like a much more interesting show than Voyager ever really was. Now, Voyager has done the classical Star Trek stories, and it did it fine for the most part. I'll get into when it didn't. But the true survivalist story just isn't there with Voyager. And that's a shame, because even Stargate managed to have certain problems. And certainly with Atlantis, where they didn't have the energy supply, they didn't have the energy source that they needed to truly power that city. And it takes seasons for them to find one, and they have all these survival struggles in between. Yet you sort of contrast that with Voyager, and Voyager mentions, I think in one episode, that they don't have enough photon torpedoes to survive the Delta Quadrant, and they can't replace them once they're gone. And then it's never really mentioned again, because Voyager just seems to get magic torpedoes that come out of nowhere. Now, there's always a chance that they can write it in that they've managed to find a way to make fusion torpedoes and mass produce them. Fine, but what about a shuttlecraft? Aside from the Delta Flyer, they just seem to have an endless supply of shuttlecraft, which again wouldn't make sense. Considering the size of the ship. So, yeah, there were a few problems with the survivalist nature of Voyager. That's pretty much my point when it comes to that. Feel free to interject at any point with your own thoughts about what I'm saying. I'll be more than welcome to take comments. Otherwise, it is just me prattling on. This is a discussion after all, so feel free to drop some comments. So, I thought we'd go through. They even replaced the flyer at one point. Yeah. How you doing, Reva? It's good to have you here. They replaced the Delta Flyer with another Delta Flyer. Exactly the same, except a different carpet. Also, I've turned my audio up since the last stream, so just let me know that's working okay. But yeah, the Delta Flyer. Oh, Delta Flyer was a cool little ship, really, wasn't it? But it wasn't. It was fine. It was just. It's like DS9 did that slightly, didn't they? With the Defiant, they destroyed the Defiant close to the end of the series, and then they just gave him a new ship that was identical to the Defiant because it was Defiant class or whatever class the Defiant is, and it was called the Sao Paulo, and they just renamed it. Hello, Spree! How are you? Good to have you here. Hope it's not too early for you. I did try to make the stream as late as I could. And for the last 20 minutes, it's me been prattling on about some of the things I didn't like about Star Trek Voyager. I will get to some of the things that I did like about Star Trek Voyager. But yeah, what was I saying? I've lost my point. Deep Space Nine. Yeah, with the Defiant. Sorry, yeah, the Defiant being destroyed. I don't know. I think it was a very sort of over. It was slightly overdone, that entire scene, and with the Delta Flyer, it was like, oh, okay, the flyer's been destroyed. They've lost the flyer. They've built this shuttlecraft and it's been destroyed. And a couple of episodes later, it's, Tom Paris is flying the Delta Flyer. Hang on a minute, why is he flying the Delta Flyer? Oh, they just built a new one. They produced a new shuttle. Yeah, it would be presumably out the same replicator that they used to make the photon torpedoes. So yeah, the premise was great. The execution kind of wasn't. It was kind of lackluster in places. However, the characters, and some of you will shoot me at dawn for saying some of this, and some of you will just agree. The characters were interesting. Captain Janeway, as I've already said, it was a bit of a paradox at times, and she was much too sort of proud. Chakotay was obviously quite a wise first officer, who rarely sort of went off the rails, and he was. I quite liked the character of Chakotay. I'm not gonna lie. He was. I think they overplayed the spirit animal sort of side of it, because eventually they just stopped doing it. They went, yeah, okay, so Chakotay's talking to his spirit animal again, and now Janeway's talking to hers, and Taurus is talking to hers, and then it was just a case. I think after the first couple of seasons, it sort of phased it out a little bit, didn't it? There was a few episodes where it sort of cropped back up again. But yeah, Chakotay I thought was an interesting character, and quite a good sort of counterpoint to Janeway. So I think that's what made him such a good first officer. Tuvok, of course, was just Tuvok was the Vulcan of the show, and he was. I thought he was very sort of frigid, even for a Vulcan. But mostly, I enjoyed a lot of the Tuvok episodes. The one with him and Neelix, where Tuvok loses his Vulcan side, I suppose, and becomes a lot less Vulcan. I enjoyed that episode. I thought it was good. Reaver of Jill Sandwiches. It would have been interesting to see the Prometheus from that Voyager in the Dominion War. Hell yeah, that would have been great to see that thing take on the Dominion. That's the ship that splits into three, isn't it? The old Prometheus. Yeah, very interesting concept. I quite enjoyed that. Again, a great episode, and I think a bit of a landmark or a key moment for the series, because that's when they actually finally let Starfleet know that they're still alive. What I would have liked to have seen is a reverse crossover of even just a mention, you know, with in a DS9 episode to Voyager having been lost, and its last location was the Badlands, and maybe have the Defiant go and look for him. I thought that would have been quite a cool little mention or something. Even if it's just them coming back and saying, yeah, we couldn't find them. I thought, you know, Chief O'Brien saying, yeah, no sign of them, can't find them. Oh, okay, they're gone. So I thought that would be really good. But yeah, the Prometheus, great looking ship, very cool design, very cool concept. And I think it's a bit of a crime that we never really got to see it again past that episode, which I believe was Message in a Bottle, if I'm not too much mistaken. A lot of this, I'm having to dust the cobwebs off a lot of my memories from Voyager. Although I have watched it recently, you know, it's still been a while. So yeah, as Voyager went on, I think the story's got a little bit worse, and I don't like to say that, but it became what really irked me later on in the series was the Borg, and I'll get into that a little bit after I've discussed more of the characters. But the Borg were a big problem for me, because they were, I feel, massively overplayed. Taurus, I quite liked Taurus, but there were a lot of episodes with Torres exploring her Klingon side, and you know, I think again the focus was a little bit too much on that particular element. Paris, I liked Paris, but I didn't. The Paris was Paris was essentially just Nicholas Locarno from the Next Generation episode, First Duty, I believe it's called. Yeah, he was Nicholas Locarno. The character was meant to be Nicholas Locarno, but because they would have had to have paid royalties to the person that wrote that episode and came up with the character Nicholas Locarno, it was changed to Tom Paris. It was still the same actor, Robert Duncan McNeil, but it was changed to Tom Paris. And I always thought that was a bit of a silly thing to do. Would I have preferred it to be Nicholas Locarno? Absolutely, because that would have been a continuation of his story. But they gave Tom Paris a very similar sort of background, and I think it would have been interesting to see the Nicholas Locarno character, Paris, to be actually known as Nicholas Locarno, and I don't know, perhaps have Paris as a pseudonym, or if he joined. Yeah, it'd be very difficult to do because his father was an admiral, but there might be some clever way to do that. That would have been a good idea for DS9. Also would have been cool if Ensign Wildman's husband was a recurring character on Deep Space Nine. I think that would have tied the shows together quite well. Yeah, absolutely. Harry Kim, well, everyone's favourite Green Forever ensign. Harry Kim was again. He was in some ways he was as green as Dr. Bashir, but it was such a travesty that he never got a promotion. It was such a travesty because that single officer is probably responsible for saving Voyager countless times and inventing new technologies, designing new parts of the ship, having a hand in designing a new shuttlecraft. For crying out loud, they give the guy a chance. He says, I know there's not much opportunity for advancement on a starship. It's like, well, surely you'd have made him at least a lieutenant by now. You gave a field commission to a criminal, to a mutinous criminal, but you didn't. But Janeway never promoted Harry Kim, and I always thought that was a real travesty for the character. It was so funny because he did make the point to Janeway saying, look, if we were back in Federation space, I'd probably be a lieutenant commander by now. You know, it's like, well, yeah, you would. It's nuts. The Doctor, I thought was a good character as well. And Robert, I don't know what it is, but Robert Picardo is just brilliant. He's brilliant as almost every character he plays and everything he does. He's just very Robert Picardo. Now, I don't, I'm not saying he's a, Oscar-worthy actor or anything like that, but he is brilliant. He's brilliant. He's like the guy who plays McKay in Stargate. They just play these characters, and I think they're absolutely fantastic. And although the Doctor started as dry, I think they utilised him quite well. So yeah, I liked the Doctor, and I liked the story possibility, the possibilities for telling a good story based on his character. It was really good. Now, Neelix and Kes, we'll get on to later characters that join later in just a little bit. Neelix and Kes, in my opinion, and this is all my opinion. Feel free to leave yours and I'll read them out. But Neelix, again, I think quite wasted as a character. I really, he was to some, he was like the Jar Jar Binks to some to Voyager, of the Voyager world, to some of the people that watched, a lot of the people that watched Voyager. And that's fairly accurate, but I think even Neelix had some really nice moments, and I think he was very well played. I may have mentioned the name Neelix, and I lost about 5 viewers. Oh God, he's going to talk about Neelix. Neelix, yeah, funny character, really. I can't really. I say I've never been more sort of ambivalent about a character before as I have with Neelix, because sometimes it's just so annoying, but other times he's really genuine. He's like an uncle, and he's like an uncle, but then at other times he's like a creepy uncle. It's kind of weird. And Kes, well, Kes was, I think the character of Kes embodied just how naive this show was, and how young it seemed. I don't think it ever really sort of moved out of its own failings in the concept of the show. So yeah, Kes was almost just too polite. She was one of the nicest people, or nicest characters on the ship. Almost too nice, very naive. Played very young, of course, because Kes is only 2 in the show. But yeah, it was very. Kes was a bit of an odd one. And what happened to the actress and the breakdown that she suffered, I think, makes it all that more sort of tragic. Really, Jennifer Lane, obviously she's not been in a very good place, and apparently she was a bit nuts on set as well. I don't know. I don't know, obviously, because I wasn't there. But when Kes left, obviously they had a hole to fill, and that hole was filled by Jerry Ryan, playing 7 of 9, tertiary adjunct of Unimatrix 01. And yeah, that certainly stirred a few emotions with the rest of the cast. Jerry Ryan coming into Voyager, and the cat suits. We like the cat suits. I think my favourite of all Jerry Ryan's cat suits was certainly the sort of dark blue and grey, I think it was. Very, very nice. But she also looked good in a proper Starfleet uniform as well, so that was really good. But the character of Seven, I thought, was again very. She was. I think she was very well written. As she matured and she became sort of like the argumentative one, and a very sort of angry counterpoint to Janeway. I thought Seven of Nine was great. I loved Seven of Nine as a character. I thought she was very well written, and the butchering that occurred in Star Trek Picard was awful. Awful. That character is not Seven of Nine in that show. She's not. And I don't care how much she plays it, it's not Seven of Nine. It's something that has been twisted, and as New Trek quite often does. But yeah, she was, I think, brilliant in Voyager. It's just my opinion. So yeah, those are the characters that I like the most. I do like some of the recurring characters. But again, some of them I think were underused and underutilized, and it was a bit odd because we had what was Scott McDonald, didn't we? We had Scott McDonald as Rollins in the first episode, and I don't think we saw Rollins again. I don't think Rollins died, and I thought Rollins was quite a good potential sort of side character, a tertiary character, and there could have been potential there, but But I think Scott McDonald obviously went on to do other things as well, so he couldn't really sort of pop in again, in recurring episodes. I did meet Scott McDonald. As I've said before, I did meet him, and I have had a conversation with Scott McDonald. He is just such a genuinely lovely bloke. He had the time to, have a sit down. Well, he had the time to have a chat with me. I spoke with him for about 5 minutes. Seemed a lot longer, but I think it was about 5 minutes, and he was an absolutely genuine fella. I really enjoy every time I see Scott McDonald portray a character in Star Trek. He was fantastic to talk to as well. Vorik, again, just another Vulcan. Again, the Voyager had within its cast of characters 2 characters from the Next Generation episode. From a Next Generation episode, because the guy who played Vorik also played a ensign. I forget his name now, in the episode Lower Decks. So you got Tom Paris, who you got Robert Duncan McNeil, who played Locarno in the First Duty, the Next Generation episode, and then Tom Paris on Voyager, who had a similar character, and then you had Vorik, who was played by the same actor who played another Vulcan character in the episode Lower Decks. And I thought that would be interesting to bring him across to Voyager as the character, and say, well, I served on the Enterprise, and then I served on Voyager. I forget the character's name from Lower Decks, but it's not Vorik. I don't think it's Vorik. And it's just such a shame, because again it's having to pay royalties to someone who created the character in that episode, and that's such a shame. But Vorik was okay. He was sort of used whenever he was a plot device a lot of the time, or just someone to bounce stuff off of. I thought it was quite interesting. So the chat's very quiet. I don't like talking. I don't like it when it's just me talking. But yes, so those. I don't think I've missed any characters out as far as I can remember. But let me know if I have. I probably missed one of the main cast. I want to move on just to the ship and the design of the ship, because I think the ship's probably one of the most attractive ships in Star Trek. I quite like it. I like the nacelles going up. That was a nice touch. I don't know why they need to go up, because no other ship has them the need to sort of elevate their nacelles to go to warp. It could have been something regarding some kind of better flight dynamics. I'd say flight dynamics because it's not aerodynamics, space dynamics or warp dynamics. But I thought it was a sleek ship, and it was all new. It was all the newest technology, and it was interesting because in the first and second seasons, I think, you had the bioneural circuitry, and it was a big thing. There was big emphasis on the bioneural circuitry. But as Voyager went on, it's just that I think they kind of forgot about the bioneural circuitry. It's getting hard to say that now. Bioneural circuitry. The gel packs and all of that stuff. They didn't really utilize it in the latter seasons. Reva, it does feel like Voyager should have had more recurring characters. Yeah, it's like Joe Carey. He features very heavily in the first couple of seasons, and then I think aside from the odd appearance, in between, the episode that they brought him back for, they killed him. It's like, oh, but they were so close to home, and he nearly made it. I thought that was a really stupid idea. To have this character just off in the background for so many seasons of television, and then suddenly he's back. Joe Carey is back, and you're like, oh, I remember Joe Carey from the first and second and maybe the third season. What happened to it? Where has he been? What's he been up to? Oh, he's dead. That was hilarious and tragic at the same time. It's such a shame. But Rollins, I think we needed more Rollins, and we definitely needed more Joe Carey towards the end, because it would have been interesting to see him as a sort of a developed engineer. I don't know, characters, man. Certainly the officers. And Voyager I don't think they lost enough officers along the way. The first two seasons were okay. They were tame, but the rest of it was hit and miss, very hit and miss. So I mean, at this point, I'm just going to go through a few random episodes from season 1 and season 2, and then we can sort of go a little deeper into some of the better episodes that I quite like. I've already mentioned Caretaker as a fairly good sort of leap off point. But the next episode, Parallax, was it was a black hole episode. It was a quantum singularity episode, and I quite liked the way that Torres got made the chief engineer, because everyone was so against it because she's so fiery and so so very antithetical to what Starfleet is. She's so very against Starfleet, and then by the end of the episode, she is the chief engineer, and I think I did like that, but I did think that Janeway suddenly got along with her far too quickly in that one. We have Time and Again, which is again another oh, it didn't really happen episode, which I don't like it when Star Trek does a reset. Star Trek episodes do this reset. There's consequences and then it's reset. And a temporal anomaly with that happening, I think it becomes almost like a lost episode that the crew don't really know ever happened, and I don't like those because it's sort of, it makes the story ultimately pointless if you think it from it. Think of it. If you think from it a timeline perspective, it makes the entire episode completely pointless. Phage, we're introduced to the Vidians, and the Vidians were, I thought, a good one. Could have been a lot darker and could have been a lot nastier as a species, but I think obviously Voyager has this problem where you can't have the same aliens in it for too long because they're traveling across the galaxy, and you're going to leave a lot of species behind along the way, especially ones that you meet. You can have species of the week, but you do need overarching threats and other species in that sense. So the Vidians were only, I think, in the first 3 seasons, and then I think they are mentioned here and there throughout the series again. The big ones for me, the ones that I really hated the most, were the Kazons, because they were supposed to be like almost like the mercenary Klingons of the Delta Quadrant. They were the biggest threat, but really, they were, I think, they appeared far too much and far too often for my liking. There were a lot of Kazon episodes where I quite honestly, I was bored. I didn't enjoy them anywhere near as much as I did the episodes where there's a Delta Quadrant mystery or a Delta Quadrant anomaly that they had to investigate or solve or close or something along those lines. I found those episodes much more interesting than I did focusing on the Kazon and, you know, every bloody other episode. It was nuts. The episode with the Trabe and Voyager's just getting hammered and battered. Fine, great. There's a potential consequence, and a potential carryover into next episodes. I would have thought it'd be interesting for the 5 episodes previously for them to be increasingly more attacked and say this is becoming more than a nuisance now. We're under attack at every point we go, but it's kind of compressed into one episode. I didn't really enjoy that too much. I know I'm dancing around from episode to episode, but if you've got anything you want to say on those episodes, then let me know and put it in the chat. The first VHS that I bought of Star Trek Voyager was Eye of the Needle and Ex Post Facto, the next two episodes from the first season, and that having been the introduction to Voyager, I thought that Eye of the Needle was a fantastic episode. I really enjoyed it because, but I think it was a little bit too early to be introducing a potential way home. It would have been something that would have been interesting, perhaps in the second season when the show had been established a bit more. That they've got this journey and just how far they need to go, and I don't like the episodes where they've got the chance to get home, but some fuckery happens and they don't manage it in the end. I don't enjoy those episodes too much because I think I scream at the screen in frustration and anger. Like, what are you doing? Just do it, you know. Eye of the Needle was an interesting one because they find this micro wormhole, and it's tiny. It's only about 30 centimeters in diameter. It's a tiny wormhole, and they managed to send a probe into the wormhole, and try and figure out where it leads. And it just so happens to lead back to the Alpha Quadrant. So they're going, okay, so we can't fit the ship into it, but maybe we could send a message through it. And they've discovered a ship on the other side, and it just so happens to be a Romulan ship. Because, of course, the wormhole has to go to Romulan territory. And there's a whole sort of back and forth in that episode, which was really nice. It was very well put together, very well structured narratively speaking. It was really good. And the outcome ultimately is it's a bit of a disappointment for the crew, because the wormhole not only goes through space, it also goes through time, and they were talking to a Romulan from 20 years previously, so there was simply no way for them to use that wormhole in a productive way. I did miss an episode. The Cloud was a good one too. I quite like the Cloud. What are your favourite episodes? What episodes did you enjoy from Voyager the most? Ex post facto, murder mystery, wrongful accusations, and obviously everything's fine in the end because Paris is not a murderer. Emanations is an interesting one. This, kind of covering death, I suppose. Harry Kim being the one who dies and then isn't dead, and then is dead again, and then isn't dead because he comes back. This next episode is one that I'm talking about. It's episode 9. It's called Prime Factors. Okay. Again, I think a little bit too early in the show to be once again broaching another possible way home. I would have appreciated it if they'd left the first season to, holy crap, we're stuck in the Delta Quadrant. There's no way home other than to fly through space. And have a whole season about, right, we've got this many resources, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, we've got to ration, we've got to, think about what we're doing. Yes, we can go and explore, but we have to refuel. We have no star bases to repair. We've got no way to replenish our photon torpedoes. We've got to try and survive. I think the first season should have been that. Prime Factors annoyed me. It annoyed me because Voyager encounters this species that they're all about giving. They like giving away and like doing. They're kind of just like the nicest people you'll know, but they're almost too nice. They're called Sicarians, I believe, and they have this technology. It's called spatial projector or something like that. So it's able to fold space and send people instantly to this planet called Alastria, or that's what they claim. It's that's what they call it. And Alastria is 40,000 light years away. One thing that's never broached in the show is Alastria 40,000 light years away in the right direction, or is it in the opposite direction? I don't think it's ever covered in the episode, but they just assume it's going to take them closer to home. Alastria. No, Paris isn't a murderer. Janeway's a murderer. Oh, we'll get to that. Trust me. Trust me, Reaver. But it's another episode where it's the Prime Directive. The Prime Directive gets in the way of Voyager getting home. And I'm just thinking, all the while you have a ship with the most advanced technology Starfleet has to offer, and you're stuck in the territory of majority sort of, I had to say, third world races that don't have the technology. They don't have replicators, transporters, or anything like that. Excuse me. They don't have this technology. You do, and therefore you are a risk to Starfleet. You know, these species want your technology. You have a target painted on your hull, and you're flying through the Delta Quadrant. You must get home, but and yes, you have to abide by the Prime Directive. But somewhere down the line, there's a sacrifice that you need to make. You need to sacrifice the Prime Directive in order to be able to follow it more sincerely. You know, a little violation with one species in order to get your ship and your crew home, to prevent possibly thousands of different species being affected by your mere presence in their space. So prime factors, the lowdown is this species has the spatial projector, or spatial trajector, I think it's called. And Janeway asks to use it. They say we don't share technology. Janeway says we have the same rule. We don't share technology, but can we use it once to get us 40,000 light years closer to home, provided it's actually 40,000 light years in the right direction. And they say no, but they say it with kindness, and they say, well, yeah, we'll think about it. We'll look at it. Our leaders will make a decision. And Janeway goes, you know, we'll make it quick because we've really got to be on our way. Janeway has a falling out over them because she pushes too hard, and they just say, look, we're trying to be nice to you, but you're being a bit greedy here. And I know Janeway's all excited to get them home and everything, get her crew home, and that's fine. But they end up, a couple of officers end up taking the back alley route to get the technology, and it backfires big time and nearly destroys the ship. And I would have thought that the most logical thing to do in that circumstance, if you're going to violate the Prime Directive, or you're going to, you know, or you're going to use the trajectory, you don't even need the technology. All you need to do is get Voyager low enough over the trajector platform, shoot a hard line onto the surface, have Harry Kim stand there and hold it. I don't know. It might work. And have the trajector send the ship the 40,000 light years. You don't even need the technology. So yeah, and I've just read a comment. We saw what happened to the Equinox if they've gone that way. Yes, you never really violate the Prime Directive because it's the Prime Directive. It's Starfleet's General Order Number 1. However, captains in the past have proven that they can circumvent it slightly, or, you know, bend the rules a little bit in order to get home. The Equinox was in a much more desperate situation than Voyager, and they were killing life forms in order to harvest their bodies, because their bodies produced the kind of fuel that Equinox needed. Slightly different set of circumstances. I understand your underlying point, though. It's a slippery slope. You violate the Prime Directive once, you can justify violating it again and again and again. But Prime Factors was another one of those episodes that really just annoyed me. Because there was so many different ways they could go about the end result, obtaining the end result. State of Flux again was I think a very nice sort of follow on from that episode. It wasn't a direct sequel or anything like that. It wasn't really referenced, but it was about technology. The technology on Voyager getting into the wrong hands. What would happen? You know, the Kazon want all the Voyager's technology, but they just don't know what they're doing with it, and they try to win. They get the components to build a replicator, and they try to build one, and end up the crew end up dying, and they end up being melted into the decks and whatnot. It was quite horrific. A good delve into the dangers of sharing technology. And again, I'm not contradicting myself with the previous episode. Don't share technology, but there was ways for Voyager to be able to use the current technology that was on the planet and get them closer to home. But I think Voyager's Janeway's also eager to get home, and the Sicarians were, well, to be fair, they were the nicest dicks in the Delta Quadrant, weren't they, really? So we got a series of other episodes that were sort of, I think Faces was a good one with the split B'Elanna, and it was got to be one of the most brutal mutilations of a Starfleet officer you'd ever seen, with poor old Durst getting his face removed and it being surgically planted onto this other in a very Frankenstein kind of way. That was horrendous. Jitrell, yeah, it was a good Neelix episode, I thought, but Neelix was mildly annoying in it. But is it James Sloyan? Again, a good Star Trek actor coming back to dazzle us with his talent. He is a very talented actor. He played Jitrell. Very good episode. Learning Curve. One of those episodes again. One of those episodes that didn't follow on to other episodes. You never saw. Is it Dalton again? Dalton. And you never really saw any of those people again. It was they appeared in one episode and then you never saw them again throughout the entire run of the show. Was it Hanley, Dalton? Loads of them. So season 1, I think, if season 1 had been structured, I've just gone through a few of the episodes, but if season 1 had been structured in right, okay, we've got to learn how to survive in this quadrant, rather than delving too much into holodeck stories, and your stories around revolving around the questions of death and a murder story, and I thought the Cloud was an interesting one, for example, because Voyager's trying to get more fuel and ends the episode with a lot less fuel than they started with. So season 1, I think, was a fair starting point, but again, it re-emphasised that Voyager was just a missed opportunity in my point of view. Season 2, I think, switched it up a little bit. It was really good. Sorry, the screen's not froze. I am still alive. But season 2 had a bizarre opening episode. Absolutely bizarre. Amelia Earhart. An interesting one. All these people who had gone missing in the past had been kidnapped by these aliens. And I always thought it was one other missed opportunity was the episode Enterprise, North Star. Because you got exactly the same thing. You got the Skagarans that had taken people from Earth in the past, used them as slave labour. And it would be interesting if they were the same species. Remember, that was in the 37s. Because it's the same sort of thing. A species that kidnaps people from Earth. And the 37s were preserved, but there was a whole race of humans in the Delta Quadrant who had built, essentially, an Eden of Earth away from Earth. Whereas the ones in Enterprise hadn't really moved on. These people had. I thought, again, it would have been nice for Enterprise to tie it in, making it the same species, but again, Enterprise isn't set in the Delta Quadrant, so there would have been some cool way to write that, I think. But yeah, 37s was an interesting one. I did like the concept it was a good concept for Stipan's just said. It's a fish out of water story, which is good. And I liked it because it was the first time we saw the Voyager land on a planet. The first time we saw a starship properly land on a planet. And I liked the fact that they made it so Voyager could land. And it's something that is utilised again further in the series. Initiations, I wasn't massively bothered by initiations. Aaron Eisenberg did a good job in initiations, but it was another Kazon story that I just didn't find the Kazon a particularly interesting species, to be fair. Projections was interesting one because I liked the fact that it was delving into the Doctor's creator, and so on and so forth. And you had Reg Barclay. And I always forgot that he was in such an early episode of Voyager, when you had the Pathfinder episode, and you think, oh, Reg Barclay's in Voyager, and I'd always forgotten that he was in Voyager previously. Reva, what did you think of Seska betrayal episode? I liked it. I liked the concept. Because what they did is they thought, okay, so the Maquis were infiltrated by Starfleet, but what about the possibility that the Maquis were infiltrated by the Cardassians as well? Because the Cardassians would want to put their own people in, because the Maquis hate the Cardassians and fight the Cardassians. I thought that was always a very interesting sort of idea. And Seska being that one who obviously slept with Chakotay because Chakotay was fairly high up in the Maquis, and she did it to try and manipulate him, to get secrets from him, and she was so manipulative that she was so convincing that Chakotay held on to that belief that she was innocent for so long in the episode. I thought that was really great. Seska in general, I thought, was a very convincing Cardassian in a Bajoran disguise. I don't know what you guys thought of Seska, but I thought she was a very interesting character. A little bit too moustache twirly towards the end, but she was pretty good. I liked her. Stefan, for me, Kes was the weakest character. Even liked Neelix better than her. Yeah, Kes. I did mention earlier that Kes was a bit of a tame character. She was almost like the nice old lady character, you know. And she was very naive, and she was written and portrayed as a character that was very young. She was two years old, you know, because Compans live only 9 years. They grow really quickly, and they give birth out of the backs, out the spine. Ouch. That's a very different kind of pain to imagine, isn't it? Really, but no. Kes was a safe character, a little too safe. Very naive, a little too naive. Almost felt like you were watching a child, you know, on a TV show. So yeah, Kes was quite a weak character. But I mean, I could make this stream last 8 hours going through, and I do want to go through some of my favourite episodes. I'm going to do that as well with Clayton. I think we're going to do Deep Space Nine and Voyager. I want to talk about some of the ones that really stuck out for me, and further to what I said earlier about missed opportunities to get home. The biggest the biggest missed opportunity for Voyager to get home was, I believe, a season 3 episode called False Prophets. I'm just looking for it now. See if it was season 3. I think it was season 3. False Prophets. Another Next Gen tie-in episode. Let me just read this comment out. Geez, I thought I had back problems. Yeah, do you have an infant coming out your back? Ouch. Yeah, False Prophets was one of the single most annoying episodes I've ever seen of Star Trek. And it was only annoying because it was one of those screaming at the TV episodes. What the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing? Again, this murks with the prime. This makes it murky with the prime directive again. But for those who aren't familiar, I'm sure you all are. False Prophets is the continuation episode from The Price from Next Generation, where the two Ferengi, Arinar and Cole, that went through the Barzan wormhole and didn't come back. The Barzan wormhole flitters from the Delta Quadrant to the Beta Quadrant, and it's unstable at one end. So the Alpha Quadrant side is stable, the other ones aren't. So the other side isn't, and it flitters from one quadrant to another, and they get trapped in the Delta Quadrant, and that's where the episode sort of leaves them. And obviously, Voyager's got an opportunity to pick up from where that episode left off, and they find the two Ferengi, and they are exploiting a primitive culture. And it is gross what the Ferengi's doing. It is disgusting what the Ferengi are doing. And the damage, it would seem, has been done. The Prime Directive has been... I think somewhat nullified by what these Ferengi have done. And Janeway is a twat in this episode. Because they find the Barzan wormhole, as well as the two Ferengi. They stabilise the Barzan wormhole, and it's stable for, what, 12 hours? Something along those lines. They stabilised it, and the ship is there next to the wormhole, and they are gonna they have every opportunity to go through the fucking wormhole, and they don't. Because they beam the two Ferengi up, and they've got them bang to rights, saying, right, you're not exploiting this species anymore. And the Ferengi managed to convince Janeway to beam them back down, because the Ferengi have had a big influence on this species, and they're going, their sudden disappearance may affect this culture. And it's like, she beams them back down, and their wormhole is open, and they could go through it at any point. Okay, yes, we wouldn't have a show if they did. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, the circumstances surrounding them not getting home this time is entirely Voyager's fault. Entirely. They again, how long was it open for and stable for? They could have just gone through. They could have just gone through and said, right, okay, look, we stabilised the wormhole. We know how to do it. We stabilised it. We've come through. We've got these two Ferengi. They've been complete dickheads. We need you to take the Ferengi back, and you need to send a ship back through just to, I don't know, repair some cultural damage. But we made it through the Barzan wormhole. Boom, bada boom, we're home. No, of course not. And yeah, okay, like I said, we wouldn't have had a series if that were the case. But I thought it was just, it was ridiculous. Isn't it hypocritical for her to intervene because they're not part of the Federation? Yeah. Yeah, it could be. I know that the Federation held the talks, or the negotiations, for the acquisition of the Barzan wormhole, or at least the use of the Barzan wormhole. And that's why she then feels obligated to try and solve the problem. But it's a very easy problem to solve, isn't it? You snatch the Ferengi up, you say, you're not doing this anymore. No way, not a chance. They'll be okay. We've got your technology. They're not going to really remember too much in 100 years. They're going to be fine. They'll redistribute your wealth. Yes, you've changed their society, but you're going to be imprisoned, and you're going to go back to the Federation to stand trial for that. Again, I'm not sure how the Federation would actually be able to press charges against the Ferengi because they're not Federation citizens. But regardless of all of that, they still held position by a wormhole that led directly back to the Alpha Quadrant, and they didn't go through it. And I was screaming at the TV, just go through the fucking wormhole. Just go through that fucking wormhole. It's there. It's open right now. Get your crew together. Say, we're going through. All the necessary preparations have been completed. Let's go through the wormhole now, please. Now, go, 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 go. Oh no, the Ferengi have escaped. Oh no, the Ferengi have destabilised the wormhole. Oh no, the Ferengi go back to the Alpha Quadrant and you're stuck in the Delta Quadrant. How'd that work out for you? Oh, it made me so mad. I was screaming at the screen, thinking, oh, why would you do this? Why would you do that? Oh, it's skipping back slightly. Basics, part 1 and 2. Ouch. Seriously, ouch. I was thinking the other day, Basics part 1 and 2, it's resolved way too conveniently. I mean, the crew suffer a little bit, don't they? Being stuck on a volcanically active planet with a primitive, almost Neanderthal level of species, and wow, yeah, phenomenal. I thought it was a good 2-part of that, but a lousy one to leave us between seasons. The shoot, it was okay. The swarm, interesting concept. I kind of like the Doctor's story in that because he's advanced a little bit too far and his program can't handle it. It's a good one, and you see a holographic representation of Zimmerman again, which I thought was really good. Remember, I'd rather not remember. To be fair, that episode sucked. Sacred Ground, again, wasn't good. Future's End. Future's End was a good one, I thought. And it had Ed Begley Jr. in it, didn't it? As Harry. Harvey? No. What's his name? Oh, fuck. What was his name? Henry Starling. It was Henry Starling, yeah. That was a good one, and it finally opened the door for the Doctor with his mobile emitter. I thought that was really good. Oh no, I've lost the chat. Where is it? There it is. Liked Future's End. Yeah, it was a good one. It's a good one. I thought it was cute because it was another Star Trek trope of going back in time to around the time where that episode was made, so they didn't have to fucking spend anything making anything particularly period specific. I remember the wait between Basics part 1 and 2. God, yeah, it was terrible, and it was. I don't know what it was like for you guys in the States, but over here in the UK, we had to wait so fucking long. It was unreal, absolutely unreal. And when Basics part 1 aired, I remember thinking, okay, let's think about this logically. Basics part 1 aired around this time. They now have to make the episode, which is not going to happen because they're on a break now, and that's going to make the episode, and then it's going to air in the States. That means everybody's going to see it in the States. We didn't really have internet back then of anything worth having. Excuse me. And then I had to wait another year for part 2. You think you had a long wait? We in the UK we always got. I think we waited 4 months for part 2. Yeah, it was a year for us because we always got American stuff really late. Really late. It was horrible. I'm sure it was something like a year. It was always a year wait between seasons. Because getting stuff from America was crazy. If you didn't have cable, cable over here is satellite TV. But yeah, if you didn't have that, oh my God, it was crazy. Absolutely crazy. The biggest mistake was they brought in Q, who could get them home. All Jamie needed to do was ask. Yeah, that's brutal. Yeah, it was. It was brutal. But a little bit on Q. Yeah, Q could have gotten them home. He wouldn't have. Because if you think about it, Q never really interfered unless there was a reason to. And he had no reason to get Voyager home. He was toying with Janeway a lot of the time. And he was fucking downright creepy. I thought Death Wish was a great episode. That was a great Q episode. It was a great Q episode. And it really started to open the Q up because you got to meet other Qs. And I think it was a moment of growth, and because it referenced what happened to him in the Next Generation, obviously having had his powers stripped, and the way that all transpired, and the fact that he was punished by the Continuum for being a naughty boy, for being too irreverent and too irresponsible with his powers, and he had them removed. And I liked it was a courtroom thing, wasn't it? A courtroom episode, but it was very well done, and I thought a very nice story. I enjoyed Death Wish, and it was such an interesting question, one that I didn't think had been asked before of the Q. What happens when you know it all, when you've seen it all, and you've played out every scenario, every possibility, and life is now just meaningless because you know everything? I thought it covered that question very, very well. When you've really seen it all, what's the point in living? And the whole Q taking, the other Q taking his own life and Q helping him in the end, I thought was superb. It was a great episode. And I liked that Q used the Voyager situation as a bribe to rule in favour of the Continuum. Yeah, Janeway could have violated her ethical code and just gone, yeah, okay, well, I'll rule in your favour, you get us home. But I don't think Q would have followed through with that. I think it would have been something that would have been taken away. And I think that Q, although, yes, he could have gotten home any time he wanted to, I think with the Q, there's still an order that they have to follow. In some ways, the Qs have a non-interference prime directive as well. And it's like when Q introduced the next-gen crew to the Borg. I find that an interesting one because he although he gets credited for introducing them to the Borg, it kind of had to happen for the universe that we have to transpire. So I don't think Q will just do something just out of the kindness of his own heart. And he does help them out along the way, but he doesn't do them any favours of the kindness of his own back. There's always a reason for him to help them along. So yeah, Q, although I think Q was handled fairly well in that respect of the comment that has just been made. Was that fated, the Borg introduction? Well, the Voyager postulated that the Borg introduction was a self-contained loop. Because Enterprise covered it slightly with regeneration, didn't they? And I always thought that was quite a clever sort of loop. 7 of 9 claims that the Borg introduction was a self-contained loop. Enterprise, I think, reinforced that. It's interesting to think about, really, because the ship that... It would mean that Q's involved somehow, surely, because if you think about it this way, the qubit system J25 or whatever it was, that ship was heading for Federation space. It was going to Federation space. Q knew this and snapped the Enterprise to that cube. So the Enterprise would be aware of it and then pulled them back, giving the Federation 2 years or a year to prepare. And because then they knew they were coming, they prepared as much as they could. And the Federation then became aware of the Borg and knew that they were a threat. And then in First Contact, the Borg go back in time to before the warp program was a thing, and then they destroy, and then the Enterprise destroys the sphere, which then leaves debris on Earth. I quite liked that. I quite liked the idea, and the Borg in that time are frozen for I think how long is it? 100 years, so 70 years in between between First Contact with the Vulcans and I think it's, I forget how many years it is now, but there's a good portion of time, and then they are defrosted in Enterprise's time, and they assimilate a ship and get a message out to the Borg, which summons the ship that then appears in the next generation at J25. I thought that was quite a nice loop. But 7 of 9 talks about a loop where the Borg are responsible for the birth of the Federation because the Borg intervened in the warp program or attacked the Phoenix in the past. The crew of the Enterprise then repaired the Phoenix, which would have made it space-worthy and flight-worthy, but it wouldn't have been if the Borg hadn't intervened. And then, obviously, the Borg then take credit for the existence of the Federation in the first place, being a self-contained loop. So, 2 self-contained loops. It's interesting to think about, really, isn't it? Interesting concept. But I think the Borg... I think there were a lot of things had to come together for the Borg to be introduced, but the Q, obviously Q being involved in that, I think it makes it a very interesting way to look at it. See, this is why I like talking to you guys, because it really just gives me things to think about. I like that. It's a good one. Q in the Grey, again another Q episode. A civil war within the Q. Interesting concept that the Q having a war has an effect on the universe physically. Supernova explosions are happening all over the place. Interesting, but again, not. It wasn't a necessary episode. It was good. It was a fairly good one. Didn't. I liked it because of the cool concepts that it introduced, rather than the story that it. Story that it actually had. Just looking through these season 3 episodes, there was a weird sort of period, wasn't there, with season 3? Macrocosm was a good one. The macroscopic viruses, I thought it was a good one, a good infection story for the ship. Kind of like Enterprise's Genesis with the Barclay Spider. Macrocosm was an interesting one, kind of scary, but from there to about Scorpion, I think there was a run of very interesting episodes. Very interesting episodes indeed. With a couple of not so interesting ones, but it was a very strange sort of transition from what Voyager was to what Voyager became within those episodes. Coda I thought was brilliant, and some of the acting in that was superb. Blood Fever, I could have done without it, I suppose, but Unity, and this is where they're first introduced to the fact that they are in or approaching Borg territory, and I thought that was very interesting. If she became mother of Q, all tensions would have been a lost cause. Q would help them every time. I suppose. Interesting. I'll think about that one. That's a thinker. But yes, Unity. The introduction of the Borg to Voyager. I liked the fact that they what was it? Blood Fever. They discovered the Borg corpse, hadn't they, at the end of the episode? And then suddenly the next episode was a Borg episode. I think they could have let that simmer over a few episodes. I liked the before and after because you had a little bit of what do they call it? Foreshadowing. They had a bit of foreshadowing to Year of Hell in that episode, but it was kind of like how much did they remember? How much did Kes remember from the time she's traveling through time? And she'd have to fill out a report, and somewhere in that report would be the shield variants that would help Voyager, that 7 of 9 actually discovers instead. Again, just a little continuity thing. Now, my favourite episode of season 3 in terms of a story has to be Real Life. It reduces me to tears every single time. I loved that episode because Robert Picard does a superb job, and the concept of it is fantastic, and the execution is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And as a father myself, obviously, it's a chronically painful story to watch. It's awful thought, and it's very well put, very well, like I say, executed, very well acted out. And Robert Picardo did a superb job in that. Absolutely superb. And it's one of those episodes I kind of have to skip every now and then if I'm watching Voyager, because I just go, I can't watch that. I can't watch it because it's that good. Displaced, yeah, liked Displaced, loved Displaced, yeah. Displaced was a good one. It's a fun one, you know. Body swapping, not body swapping, crew swapping. I thought that was really quite funny, quite fun. I like Distant Origin. I liked Distant Origin because in some ways Distant Origin was so true in the ways that people, individuals in position of power, control the flow of information and how it's disseminated to the general population, and how we had very similar struggles with human civilization in terms of knowledge being powerful and people obviously having knowledge sort of withheld from them. Distant Origin, I thought, was an interesting concept in the fact that the dinosaurs didn't get wiped out by a comet. They actually evolved into a spacefaring species and left Earth, and then became a generational species on a generational ship or ships. Interesting. And it points reference. They find Hogan. Is it Hogan's bones from Basics Part 1 and 2? And they're sort of chasing after these two archaeologists or paleontologists or humanologists, or whatever they are chasing after Voyager because they think that the humans evolved on the same planet that they did, and it turns out that they are dinosaurs. They are technologically advanced dinosaurs. Interesting concept. A little goofy, but it was a nice episode, and it was interesting to see a species that was so much more powerful than Voyager, because for a lot of season 1, 2, and 3, Voyager is the most powerful ship. Although the Kazon were able to batter Voyager because they had the numbers, it was nice to see Voyager, the tables turn on. Excuse me, uncontrollably yawn. I'm boring myself. Hey, well done for staying on the stream as long as you did, as long as you have. Scientific Dogma. Inkamoy, welcome. How you doing? Good to have you here. Sorry, you caught me as a yawn, apparently. For the most part, Voyager was most powerful, and suddenly this species was able to completely disable Voyager. And it would make sense as well, because they've been developing their technology for at least 65 million more years than the Federation has. So they would have very powerful ships and very powerful capabilities. A fun episode was Worst Case Scenario. Again, it was a good one. Nice to see Seska back as Seska, as Bajoran Seska as well. It was pretty good. It was fun, and there was one of my favourite bits in that was the doctor when he was treating Paris's wound. He goes 50 cc's of nitric acid, a little proverbial salt in the wound. Ingamoy, just woke up. You're apparently going to bed. No, it's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon here. I'm just tired. It's been a hold that one back. It's been a long sort of morning, a long day. I've done a few controller repairs as well, so I'm still loving the fumes of solder and flux. It's made me a bit tired. Clayton, hey Danger Man, listening while doing some weekend shopping. How are you doing, mate? I hope you enjoy your weekend shopping. I'm currently discussing Star Trek Voyager. I promise you I'm not going into my all-time favourites. We still will be doing the all-time favourites stream when you and I actually sync up again and we can actually get a stream going. I can't wait for our next stream, buddy. It's always nice to stream with you. Scorpion Part 1 and 2 Voyagers. I think a big change for. You made me yawn. Got to go get a coffee. Oh bless you. I could probably do with the coffee myself. I'm drinking juice at the minute. I do have a Coke here, an emergency Coke in case I do start to get really tired. But turns out talking is really difficult. Scorpion Part 1 and 2 I thought was quite good, and a good introduction to the character of 7 of 9. But I liked the fact that the consequences to that episode carried on into the next one. And like I said earlier, Voyager desperately needed that so much more. And the gift is where obviously Kes leaves, and 7 of 9 sort of deborgifies, I suppose. Inkamoy, I've been watching Unlimited Live's Voyager reviews. Entertaining. Are you looking at reviewing any of the classic series on a more in-depth basis? Yes. Yeah, that's something that I'm thinking about doing, definitely. It's I've said this before, it's difficult to find the time at the moment to do in-depth reviews. I have to really sort of find time to sit down and write the reviews and think about what I want to say about the episodes. I think off the back of this stream, though, I will be doing some Voyager reviews. I like to think that I'm good to go on that one. Seven saved the show. Been watching his Voyager reviews too. They're good fun. Oh, good. I'll think about doing some reviews of classic Trek, because I think classic Trek is obviously better than new Trek. I don't get me wrong. I like reviewing new Trek because it's utter dog shit and it's good fun to be cynical. And it's very easy to get caught in a loop of cynicism. So it's nice to be talking about some Star Trek that I like. Yes, 7 and 9 was a boost to the show besides being eye candy. Yeah. No, when 7, how old was I when 7 of 9 came on to the show? When did 7 of 9 come on to the show? Yeah, so it'd be 1998 would have been the end of season. So it'd be 98, 99. So I would have been 16, 17. Somewhere around that, somewhere around there. So yeah, 16, 17-year-old me, quite like Jerry Ryan in those catsuits. And you know, every time she go, oh, Nighthawk 9, how are you doing, mate? 7 of 9, a 7 of mine episode. Is that a typo, or are you saying I wish it was 7 of mine? Shorter, yes. Jerry Ryan was some serious eye candy, but I think she was actually a really decent actress as well, in playing the character. I thought, Clayton, I thought Scorpion was a fascinating look at how they were able to bargain with the Borg, plus Species 8472 was really interesting. Species 8472, I don't know about you, but scared the crap out of me. It was, what can do this to the Borg? What a fantastic intro as well. What a fantastic opening to an episode. You know, with a Borg, there's 3 Borg cubes, and they all get destroyed and blown up. And you think, oh, fucking hell, what can do that to the Borg? But you're not a true fan if you don't accept J.J. Kurtzman Trek. I have a few choice words for people who say those sorts of things that aren't being sarcastic, of course. But yeah, not a true. This is something I'm coming across so much. Is I'm being told I'm not a true fan if I don't like New Trek and what New Trek has to offer. Well, you're not a true fan if you don't like Michael Burnham. So I'd rather be accused of not being a true fan than liking Michael Burnham. Stepan got introduction of 2 of the most interesting species with Scorpion. Yeah, 8472 was brutal and intimidating, and I think genuinely one of the biggest threats to the entire galaxy that had ever been introduced onto Star Trek. And then they became domesticated later on in the series. It's like, okay, so yeah, one of species 8472 was being hunted by the Herosian, and one was there's another one, wasn't there? One was being hunted by the Herosian. I can't remember the other one. And then yeah, they decided they're going to set up training facilities in the Delta Quadrant to masquerade as humans, infiltrate the Federation and destroy it from within. And then they got domesticated and said, okay, yeah, we won't do that because you know, humans are actually quite all right. Doesn't matter about all the other species in the galaxy that may threaten 8472 or might have a problem, because we quite like humans now. We're not going to do it. Infiltration Academy, yeah. Would have been nice if 8472 became an antagonist instead of the Borg. Maybe they want revenge on Voyager for ruining their plans. Well, you see, the whole thing with 8472, I thought was the concept that the Borg started the war between the two powers, because the Borg found a new realm to try and assimilate and got their asses handed to them on a plate. I thought that was really interesting. And the fact that 8472 think that the Borg represent the galaxy and they just wanted to come in and balls to the wall, destroy everything, I thought was really interesting. If the Borg were destroyed and 8472 destroyed the Borg and then became the real antagonist of Voyager, I'm not sure how much they could have done with it, in all honesty, because 8472, the Infiltration Academy, as it's been referenced to there, I think was their attempt to try and delve deeper into 8472, but I don't think there's enough there for it. Enough in for it. While DS9 was doing the serialized storytelling, Voyager was like Trek Light at the time. I like DS9 more at the time, but it's easier to watch Voyager now because of its episodic nature. Yeah, I think with Voyager they could have had the best of both worlds, really. Pardon the pun there. I think they could have had the best of both worlds because they could have had the survivalist nature. I'm playing with something here. It's just a flux brush. They could have had the survivalist nature of the show that they needed it to be, you know, and tell episodic stories. You know, I think one of the biggest problems with the carryover from episode to episode is the ship always looked too damn clean. It needed by about season 4 to start having some discoloured hull plating, you know, where they've had to patch the hull. Seriously, the ship just looked brand new every time we saw it, and I think that was a huge problem. And it doesn't have to be stories that bleed onto one another and, you know, make reference to one another. It could just be, you know, 3 episodes where Voyager has to land on a planet because they have to change, you know, perform maintenance. And I think they did that in 1 episode, but I think it was left to 1 episode. I'm not sure. That's later on in the series. I may not be remembering that right. But rather than have stories carrying over episode to episode, have the consequences of the previous story carry on from episode to episode. Make it limiting in some way. I think that they should have done more of that. DS9 was more serialized certainly with the overarching Dominion War, but I think Voyager could have done that and still made it so you could watch the episodes on an individual basis as well. Reaver of Jill Sandwiches. To me, that would have allowed the Borg only to appear in Scorpion instead of being overused. Yeah, the Borg, I agree, the Borg were massively overused, and I didn't like that they were the end antagonist for the final episode. I didn't enjoy the final episode, Endgame. I really didn't, and I will go into that. I'll go into why a little later. I can't believe we've gotten through now in nearly an hour and 48 minutes of this stream without mentioning Threshold, which I just have. Your Threshold. I had to do it. I'm sorry, I did. I had to do it. Threshold. Yowza. Inkamoy. True. Like landing a shuttle, landing every week on the surface of the planet cost prohibited on TOS. That would be expensive for Voyager too. Yeah, it was expensive to do. You know, the CG involved in landing a starship nearly blew the freaking budget every episode that it did it. Nighthawk, oh my god, I assume that's to the word threshold. Threshold caused Threshold didn't work on so many levels and caused so many problems on so many levels that it should actually go right next to These Are the Voyages in episodes that should be discounted from Star Trek because they are universe breaking. The universe has one of the best jokes. Wake up, Mr. Paris. He was a, wake up, Lieutenant. The Doctor was brilliant in that. One of my favourite episodes was in season 4, The Scientific Method. Yeah, I'll get to Scientific Method very, very shortly. After I'm done talking about Threshold, you're not taking me off of Threshold. It's not happening. So, first issue of the day, Warp 10. Now, I haven't referenced this in previous videos that I've done and previous streams. Warp 1, Warp 2, Warp 3, Warp 4, Warp 5, Warp 6, Warp 7, Warp 8, Warp 9. Warp 9.975 is the maximum speed of Voyager. And for some reason, some odd reason, they refer to Warp 10 as so fast you're occupying every point in the universe simultaneously. How do you go from Warp 9.975 to holy fuck, I'm occupying every point in the universe simultaneously? I can't believe... Get out of here. There's not a threshold day, is there? I must be seriously out of touch if there's a threshold day. To celebrate the day it aired, threshold day, no way. Love it. Warp 10 is infinity. Yeah, it's just, okay, so you're going to occupy every point in the universe simultaneously, so you can use this to get home. But in doing so, you actually accelerate the human evolutionary process to the point where we revert to salamanders. So what's the first sign that Paris is evolving? It's that he's allergic to water. He's allergic to the water in the coffee. So we develop a water allergy. We have no further use for a tongue. We're not telepaths, so we lose the ability to communicate. And we slowly turn into fish or salamanders. Yeah, I don't think that episode did Star Trek any kind of favours. Because, and here's an interesting thing, Paris went to Warp 10 and then started evolving into a salamander, and then halfway through his evolution, or maybe 2/3 way through his evolution, he went to Warp 10 again, seemingly would double his evolutionary speed, and Janeway was on her first trip and became a salamander, and they both ended up as salamanders and had salamander babies on a planet that were left behind. That was not a good episode. I liked the concept of Warp 10, but I think it shouldn't have been called Warp 10. It should have been called Ludicrous Speed. With Tom Paris hanging on to the back of the chair. Yeah, Warp 10 is infinity. For a long time, I thought the dinosaur race from season 3 was Paris and Janeway's children. Wouldn't that have been interesting? I loved the first bit of Threshold, their attempt to solve the problem of Warp 10, Neelix providing an out-of-the-box solution. But then everything went insane after that. Yeah, Clayton, I completely agree with that, with your point on that. I thought Neelix always provided an out-of-the-box solution for a lot of problems that came up, because he just had a different way of thinking. It was a more lateral way of thinking. It was a case of, okay, so what if it's not the ship and the cells being torn from the ship? What if it's the ship being torn from than the cells? Yeah, Neelix. I like Neelix's points a lot. A lot of Neelix's help, because it's always nice to have a different a point of view, a different way of thinking. Someone said to me once, "Happy Threshold Day." I said, what? Oh man, Threshold Day, amazing. Do they celebrate with sushi? I wonder. I think that was a FU episode to religious doctrine. Yeah, the dinosaur one, definitely. Threshold was, they've gone played. Yeah, Threshold, bad move, bad. How could you make Threshold a better episode? Well, you could you can make it so they're not occupying every point in the universe simultaneously at the same time. You can make it so it's a version of transwarp, and you could have a radiation that it kind of a course oblivion type of situation, a radiation that's emitted, or particles that start breaking down your DNA and eventually kill you. That would have, I think, made more sense than Warp 10 and Salamanders. But hey, that's just me. But Threshold was one of those episodes that should be vaulted, I think. Made them evolve. If it made them evolve, not devolve. Yeah, but that's what they say, though, isn't it? They say it made them evolve. And that's what happened to them. Is that they're saying in that episode that the eventual evolution of the human species is to become salamanders. Is to devolve, but that's their evolution. To see our progression as a species. Oh, you're saying? Oh no, I see what you're saying now. You're saying it would have been better for us to see them evolve rather than devolve. But yeah, that's the kind of the point of the episode. They say that that's our evolution. It would have been cooler to see a proper evolution of the human species, kind of like in the Orville with when the people transcend. Or hell, even let's be self-referential for Star Trek here. Transcendence, to see us evolve into something. Yes, I see it as a devolution. Yeah, you're right. It's a devolution. It should have been an evolution, but for some reason the writers decided to turn us into bloody salamanders in our future. I mean, what the hell? Opposable thumbs gone. It's just ridiculous. Legs gone. Let's just turning. Oh man. Now anyway, yeah. Threshold. What a. Pardon my French. What a fucking waste of a concept, and what a fucking terrible episode to have in the Star Trek ranks. And don't get me wrong, there are more, but it was not good. It was not good. Yowza. Threshold. Yeah. What was the episode that I was going to? They went above Warp 10 all the time in TOS. Sorry, I missed that one. Yeah, they did. Yeah, and they also went Warp 13 in All Good Things in the future. Oh man. Scientific Method. That's the one that Stepan brought up. Scientific Method. Great one. Experiments on the crew. Janeway kind of being a badass at the final part of the episode. Sorry, I'm not comfortable. Janeway being a bit badass towards the end of the episode. And I also like the fact that 7 of 9 was the only one who could see them. Scientific Method. I think I've said this on the stream before, but for those of you who don't know, Scientific Method was my introduction to a very different kind of Voyager that I was used to. So I believe when Basics Part 2 aired, in America, no, so how did it go? So when Basics Part 2 aired, I think we'd gotten up to the just after it aired, we'd gotten up to the episode Flashback, which is the Sulu episode, which I quite enjoyed. And then my mate had access to Sky One, so Sky One is satellite. Sky in this country is just it's let's say basically a cable provider, except it comes through a satellite dish. It's a television provider anyway, and they had a channel called Sky One, and Sky One was getting the American episodes pretty quick, a lot quicker than the BBC were over here. So when I saw Flashback, a mate of mine said, "Oh, I've got the couple of episodes that I've been recording off Sky One. Do you want a copy of them on VHS?" I said, "Oh, hell yeah, sure." So the first episode he gave me was Scientific Method. And the jump from obviously Flashback, I believe, where Kes was still a member of the crew, and Voyager hadn't encountered the Borg yet, to suddenly having Seven of Nine in the cast, I'd made this massive jump between seasons, and I'm like, wow, Voyager is so different. If there's a different tone to it, a different feeling. The graphics are a lot better. The CGI is a hell of a lot better. The ship looks a lot better. When it flew between the pulsars, I'm like, whoa! It's kind of like you've just skipped ahead in time, and missed some really good stuff in between. So I decided to keep watching it on the BBC. I watched Scientific Method, Year of Hell Part 1 and 2, and then I stopped. Those 3 episodes were the ones that I got advance on. And then I went... I kept watching the BBC 2 airing of season 3. Basics Part 2, Season 3. So, and then I caught up and then carried on through VHS, I think. But either way, the jump in quality from season 2, 3 to season 4 was fantastic. I liked the morality of the end justified the means. Yeah. What would we do if we were this alien species? And again, it harkens back to the Vidians in some respect. Because they although they were more desperate than these other people were, this other race were, the Vidians were the desperate ones trying to save their species, whereas this species was simply saying, well, we don't want to test on our own people, we'll test on you. And the outcomes of these medical experiments will be happier, healthier, longer living members of our race. Good moral sort of conundrum there, and a good exploration of it as well. And I like the fact the eerie scenes in that episode with Seven walking through the ship and seeing members of the crew being experimented on by these aliens that were invisible to them, I thought was genuinely creepy, and was a great sort of concept. As creepy as it was very well done. And I've got to hand it to the extras in that episode. They were quite good. They earned their money that day. I like how some of them bought the farm trying to leave the ship in their shuttles. Yeah. It's like, oh shit, she's serious. She's going to fly between the 2 pulsars. Our ships aren't, we may not survive this. Yeah, let's just off. And then one ship disengages and gets destroyed, and the other ship disengages and survives. Yeah, all the contractions on people's heads. Yeah, the people having the entire framework around the head, and they don't feel it because it's out of phase. But they start to feel, ill and with Janeway with the things coming out of the head, and she doesn't even realise they're there. She's just got this massive migraine. They could be here right now. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there was a lot in that episode which I really liked. And it's just Janeway getting mad. Janeway just having no sort of patience. I thought was quite a good one. I liked that one. That was good. Shall we move on a little bit? Yeah, because after Year of Hell Part 2, I mean, Year of Hell Part 1 and 2 I thought was phenomenal. They tore the ship to pieces. It was absolutely fantastic. But again, lack of consequence. Because it's all reset. And the Year of Hell never happened. And as I said previously, I don't like episodes where something happens and then it doesn't. And it never happened and the crew don't remember it. I think that's... I think it's a cop-out. Yeah, they can't eliminate all the senior officers because you wouldn't have a show, and they can't destroy the ship because you wouldn't have a show. But I think, yeah, they could have been more consequence from the Year of Hell. But yeah, it was great. It was great to see the Voyager getting battered. And again, I had having gotten that episode Scientific Method, I hadn't yet watched it, and I saw an advert for Year of Hell Part 1 and 2, and I'm like, holy crap! I think they've really just upped the ante here, and they've clearly upped the budget. Year of Hell was great to watch, but it was such a cop out. I didn't like the cop out moments. The other episode I liked in this season was Ship in a Bottle. Or do you mean Message in a Bottle? Ship in a Bottle was a Next Generation episode with Moriarty. It was the second Moriarty episode, I believe. And this is me getting a big head because I've actually remembered that. My memory is chronic. I believe it was Message in a Bottle, not Ship in a Bottle. But yes, I literally was getting to that episode. Just because they introduced a new ship. Yeah, the Prometheus I thought was great. One thing that really bugged me throughout all of Voyager, though, they are fully aware of the apparel changes with Starfleet uniforms and the new technologies that have been around or arrived. But Voyager keeps the same uniforms because the production department didn't have the budget to replace everybody's uniforms. But I always thought it would be cool to have seen the uniform change in Voyager after that episode. You say, they send the Doctor's program back, not with the Voyager uniform, but with the new uniform, and they say, Doctor, okay, did you get the message through? Yes, I spoke to her. I see they've changed your apparel. And he goes, yes. Yeah, this is what the new uniform looks like. And they decided to update my program. Also have a load more medical information that's been uploaded that they sent me back with. I've also got all the star charts for this region, all the anomaly. I've got news on the Federation. I've got within my program, I've got all these things that they've compressed and put in there. And I know they had to compress a lot to sort of send him through the data stream. But I thought it would be really interesting to have the Doctor be the conduit for update for Voyager. But no, they had to keep the same uniforms, and that always bugged me that they kept the same uniforms. It's kind of like in DS9 with Bashir having been taken prisoner for those few months, and then they had the uniform update changes, and then when you saw the real Bashir, not the changeling Bashir, he was wearing the old uniform. And I always liked that in Star Trek. It was again referencing back to itself, being very aware that this uniform had changed and there was a time frame for that change. I thought Voyager having that would have been great. But no. But contrary to that, Contrary to that, 2 seasons earlier, Voyager had this miraculous and as of yet unexplained change in technology with the tricorder and the phaser. They started with the next generation bulky tricorder and phaser, the standard issue, standard edition ones, and then I think after season 2 they updated to the curved phaser and the more compact tricorder that you see in every iteration of Star Trek up until Nemesis, I think. And they changed that, but they had no contact with the Federation to get those updates and change those updates. So whether or not they had them in storage and say that these are the dates that we put them in circulation and update them, I don't know. But that's always what I thought. But I thought, you've got no way to know that the phases and the tricorders have been updated to the Mark II, Mark fucking 7, or whatever it was. But in Message in a Bottle, the doctor clearly sees that there's been a change in uniform and doesn't bring that back with him. And I don't get it. I don't understand it. I really, really don't get it. So a couple of silly little moans, I suppose, there. I don't like the grey and black uniforms. There's not enough colour. Well, I like them. I have to be contrary to that. I really do like them. I always loved those uniforms because they had colour collar rather than the grey collar. I do agree that I liked with the colour of the standard uniform in Voyager, it being so colourful. I actually thought it looked really good. But the grey and black uniform with the colour collar, I always thought just seemed a little bit more mature for a show. And it was a more, I think it was a more stylistic approach to the uniform. I quite liked. I must admit, I quite liked it when DS9 changed them over to the First Contact uniforms. I did. I just did. It was like I liked the way the uniforms changed from the Next Generation to Deep Space Nine. You had the Next Generation collar uniforms. I thought they were always very good. I didn't like the collarless season 1 and season 2 uniforms of the Next Generation. I didn't like them. I thought they looked awful. But when they introduced collars, it was like Odo in DS9. In the first 2 seasons, he's got a collarless Bajoran uniform. But they put that collar in, and I thought that just made Odo look so much more professional, so much better, less like he was in his pajamas. And it's the same with the Next Generation when they got the collar for the uniforms for the senior officers and the bridge crew. I thought that was really good, and they had that for a whole season. They had a mixture of the 2 uniforms while they got the costume department got the upgrades sorted, and they moved to the collar. And then when Deep Space Nine first episode came along, you had Ben Sisko in the collar uniform, and then you had the grey collar split uniform, didn't you? That O'Brien started wearing, and that's what was introduced into Deep Space Nine. So I liked all the uniform changes because I thought they were always improving it and making it look more stylish. And I also like the fact that some of the starship captains in Deep Space Nine still wear the proper Next Generation collar uniform because it is somewhat more formal, and I quite like that. Anyway, enough about the uniforms. I could go on for ages. Yeah, update the uniforms and then get them quantum torpedoes. Yeah, absolutely. Because apparently they can just make torpedoes. I thought 7 made the updates just like the Flyer. Oh well, I suppose there were some updates. Yeah, the TNG movie uniforms that needed more texture for the big screen. Yeah. Yes, collars work. Doesn't have to be a turtleneck, but just a little higher on the neck is good. Yeah, I completely agree. I quite like I say I like a lot of the uniforms in Star Trek. I like the original series movies update red uniform. With the they were nice. I liked them. I didn't like what the Next Generation did and took the white collar out. and just made them flat again. What was I think Gene Roddenberry had a problem with collars. I much preferred the white collar and the tunic and everything. It was really nice, really cool. So yeah. Anyway, Message in a Bottle I thought was a great episode. Andy Dick, I can't say I'm a massive fan of Andy Dick, but he did a comical job. It was quite good. And then we have a lot of Herosian episodes after that. We got Herosian episodes, which I was never really too keen on. Yes, it was interesting to see this sort of nomadic species spreading themselves across the galaxy, utilizing this technology that they sent to get send the doctor home and everything. Yeah, budget. Yeah, definitely. But I didn't like the Herosian, the heavy use of the Herosian in later episodes. Message in a Bottle is an episode I can just randomly put on and rewatch at any time, says Clayton. Yeah, absolutely. Can completely concur with you on that one. That is an episode that keeps popping up and popping up and popping up. I love it. Love it. And it's such an easy watch. Predator rip-offs. Yeah, with regards to the Herosian. Yeah, I thought they were a good enemy to bring in, but only for one episode, maybe an occasional episode here and there, but they're massively overused. One I do want to talk about is Living Witness. Living one is nice too. One. Yeah, one. It's a good one. One. Louis, I want to talk about Living Witness for a sec. Living Witness is brilliant. I love it. I love that episode. It's a Doctor episode, obviously, but it's 700 years in the future, on an alien planet which Voyager had small interactions with, and the history has been rewritten by a species called the Kyrians, and Voyager has been vilified as the arbiters of suffering for an entire race. And the Kyrians have this museum with these Voyager artifacts, and they keep finding all these new artifacts, and one of the artifacts is the Doctor's backup module, which continuously keeps a backup of the Doctor going. And they stole the EMH backup module in this raid, and it clearly got sort of buried in some rubble or something, and then they unearth it, and the Doctor is activated and becomes this living witness to events 700 years previously. Living Witness is a superb episode. I absolutely fucking love it. It's so good. Living Witness is another amazing episode you can watch over and over. As much as I hate Discovery, I wish they had referenced the backup Doctor as having reached the Federation at some point. Yeah, some kind of reference to that would have been fantastic. But I think that's a little bit too intellectually challenging for the Discovery writers. You probably agree with me on that one, Clayton. I know you and I do share a lot of opinions. But yeah, Living Witness, superb. And it was nice to see that. As a Star Trek fan, it was nice to see some of the Federation technology referenced as artifacts. You know, something that was from years and years and years, hundreds of years ago, and seeing tricorders that are just old and non-functional. You know, one of Voyager's torpedoes. But it was nice to see that as a Star Trek fan. But it was also nice to. It was also really compelling to see this story that the Kyrians made up. You know, the Kyrians were played as victims, but yes, they were victims in some way, but they were also the aggressors. They were the aggressive species that attacked Voyager. Voyager was simply negotiating with the other species. I can't remember the name of the species. Anyway, I think it starts with a V. But yeah, it was. It's interesting because the Kyrians were playing the victims, but it turns out they were the aggressors, and they had rewritten Voyager to be these absolutely evil motherfuckers, and the cast had such a good time playing them because they were all evil. You know, Janeway executing people, Neelix being the chief of operations, or you know, a bad guy as well, and they had Borg drones, to, you know, 7 of 9 to assimilate people. The Vadwar were Dragon's Teeth, another great episode. I will get into those, but no, it weren't the Vadwar. It was the Kyrians and the fuck me. It doesn't say. Come on, help! No, it's the Kyrians and the. No, I know why you went Vadwar, but it's not Vadwar. I can't remember. That it'll pop into my head at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, it's good to see how history can be skewed, and like I say, the cast had a great time with that. And Tuvok, Janeway saying, "Why do you always make me wait, Mr. Tuvok?" Is my apologies, Captain. You know, it's seeing Tim Russ act like anything other than the Vulcan is always weird, but it's always entertaining and fun. Demon has a reference to another episode, which is of course Oblivion. I thought Demon was a perfectly serviceable episode, with copies of people, and then of course we have the all brilliant, fantastic Hope and Fear, which again it does involve some consequence from Janeway's decision, and it's kind of the exception to what I'm saying here. It does have some consequence for another species. Janeway does affect species that she has, that she doesn't even meet. She does sort of affect other species, and Hope and Fear was one where she did have a massive effect on a culture. She with the when she stopped species 8472 from invading the galaxy and destroying everything, the Borg were on the back foot, but then obviously the Borg just resumed assimilating people, and the actor's name, what's his name? I forget his name now, but he played the alien character. Oh my god, my brain is shutting down. What character did he play? No, I can't remember his name, but yeah, he was brilliant. Absolutely, the whole episode was fantastic. I thought it was really, really great. And Ray Wise, thank you very much, Inkamoy. It was Ray Wise, yeah. And he played Taurus. Was it a Taurus? He played a Taurus. Thank you. That got my brain working there. Taurus. Thank you. Yes, it was a Taurus. Yeah, the great episode, and it was cool to see the Dauntless. Because it's a very sort of Federation-looking ship in terms of the sleek hull, and it kind of looked a bit Prometheus-like, didn't it? But it was all a grand deception, and also, I mean, it also bleeds into another episode, which is Timeless. It also breeded Timeless, didn't it? Which was good with the quantum slipstream drive. And so yeah, episodes did bleed into one another, but and the consequences did. But the consequences to the ship didn't. The ship, I felt, was always far too clean. But yeah, I did appreciate that. Night, drone, extreme risk in the flesh. Timeless. Again, one of those episodes where you can just watch over and over again because it's brilliant. And it is superb, absolutely superb. I can't go on for too much longer because there are episodes that I need to do for another stream. But I'm gonna stop the episode talking there, and I'm gonna talk to the chat for a little bit because I'm coming up to nearly 2.5 hours streaming. So there you go. I never understood how such advanced species could fall to the Borg. Well, yeah, I mean, eventually, I suppose the Borg, because they can adapt, they'll just eventually get you, no matter how much of a fight you put up. Yeah, should have kept some Borg upgrades on it, but once it got back to the Federation, they might have been mistaken as a Borg trap. Yeah, that's possibly. I suppose. Yeah. Voyager has some good episodes, but it also has some terrible episodes. What the hell was that episode with The Rock? Tungsakski or whatever it was called. Tungsakski. And they just had an excuse to have a wrestler in there. Let's bring The Rock in there. Why? Because he's a wrestler. Oh, okay. We'll write a wrestling story. And the fight, and let's write a boxing story with Chakotay and have Boothby in it because we can. Boxing. Yeah, I like the Doctor's point of view on boxing. Beating each other's heads in. Nuts. Yeah, there's some episodes that were forgettable, and some episodes that weren't. So it was a good. It was an average show. It was a safe next gen light show, wasn't it? Really, Voyager. Yeah, wrestling crossover. Yeah, I don't get it. I didn't get it, and it's one that I would happily skip. There's a few that I would happily skip. The ones that I would happily skip. Let's do that because I'm going to do favourite episodes. I think with Clayton if he gets time. I would happily skip. Let's pick a random season. Season 5. I would happily skip. The Disease. It was Harry Love one. It was good, but it was. I'd happily skip the fight. 11:59. My God, 11:59 was awful. 11:59 was terrible. 11:59 was pretty much. Oh shit! We can't film on the set kind of episode, isn't it? It was Janeway recalls her ancestor. Her ancestor, Shannon O'Donnell. Who looks just like Captain Janeway, apparently. Oh, God. Do you collect Lego? There's a company in Germany that has a Star Trek license and are producing Lego off-brand ships. Oh, Blue Bricks. I'll have to have a look at that. I do. I don't collect Lego, but I do. I do have some Lego. Voyager managed to make a good musical episode, though. Good musical episode. Oh, was that the Doctor being the soprano and the alien race liking it? I can't remember. Counterpoint shows how good of a Captain Janeway is. Counterpoint was okay. Yeah, I enjoy Counterpoint. Kind of fourth-dimensional thinking in some respects, isn't it? For her, you know, I knew you were a trap, or I suspected that you were not telling me the truth, so I managed to bullshit a bullshitter. Yeah, it's a good one. It was a good ep. Equinox. I love Equinox Part 1 and 2. They're fantastic. Warhead. I quite liked Warhead. I thought that was good. And again, Robert Picardo just showing you how many different characters he can play is always nice to see. Relativity. I can watch Relativity time and time again. No pun intended. Relativity I thought was a good episode. We're going later on in the season now. Seasons. Should I say? I could easily give Barger the Dead a miss. I'm not a massive fan of that. The Tinker Tenor Doctor Spy was phenomenal. Really enjoyed that one. Because it's the Doctor just daydreaming. And it's nothing that we haven't all caught ourselves doing. It's daydreaming. And I love the, the ECH and the photonic cannon. It's brilliant. It's absolutely hilarious when he goes, charge the photonic cannon. It's brilliant. I'm being asked how I can not love something. Hold on. How can you not love a time travel episode? Time travel episodes are fine. They're fun as long as they don't take themselves too seriously. And for the love of God, please don't push the reset button at the end of the episode and make it like nothing happened. That is the thing I hate the most. Why you got to do that, man? Why you got to do that? I wish they used the hierarchy more. Yeah. It was a fun concept, and when they it's when the Doctor just checks the pulse of the captain and just drops a hand. The comic relief in it is absolutely superb. It's so funny, great comedy, love it. It's a good episode. Alice, no, riddles. What was riddles? Oh, riddles was the Tuvok one where he lost his logic. Yeah, brilliant. Loved it. Yeah, absolutely loved riddles. It was a good Tuvok and Neelix episode. And Dragon's Teeth with the Vaudois, as we mentioned earlier. Yeah, Vaudois, Dragon's Teeth was a good one. Yeah, the later episodes, I liked Pathfinder. Blink of an Eye was a good one as well. Yeah. But I'll like I say, I'll do a proper breakdown of the episodes. I think we'll do that with Clayton once we've done the Deep Space Nine one. But the episodes that you'd sort of happily sort of miss. There were a fair few. There were more. Alice, the Christine ripoff. Yeah. There were more episodes, I think, in Voyager that I would happily skip rather than Deep Space Nine. I think there were more in Voyager than Deep Space Nine. One episode that pissed me off in particular was Fury. Fury was upsetting for me. I think it was poorly written. It was time travel, but it was Jennifer Lane. Jennifer Lane coming back, I think, was not a good idea, even for one episode. And what they did to the Kes character, I think, disrespected Kes as a character. Although I wasn't a massive fan of Kes's character. Fury was overpowered Kes, yeah. Fury was infuriating. Lifeline was good. Unimatrix Zero, imperfection. I liked when the kids came onto the show. The Borg children, Icheb in particular. Icheb was one of my favourite characters. One of my favourite. I forgot to mention him earlier because I'm stupid. But I liked Icheb, and what they did to him in Star Trek Picard was just unforgivable. And I would never, ever, 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 ever trust them again. It's nuts. But yeah, loads of episodes. Anyway, I'm gonna have to go soon because I am A, tired, B, hungry, and C, I have got to get ready for work tomorrow. But it's been fun talking about Voyager. I like Voyager. Mostly. Maybe not. They're doing a Neelix thing there. But I like Voyager. Mostly. About 50%. I'd say about 25%. Probably not. Yeah, Ichep and Mazzati. Yeah. I liked it. I liked the kids. They were good. They were good characters. Ichep especially. I was very fond of the character, and the way he put his life on the line for 7 of 9 was brilliant. And Manu Intriami was very good at playing him. I don't care what he said, what he on Twitter or whatever. He doesn't deserve. No one in the Star Trek universe deserves this kind of treatment. If he played a perfectly serviceable character and he did a great job. And what they did to the character of Icheb in Picard was fucking horrendous. And like I say, I just hate it. Voyager is still Trek light, but the good eps are very comfy. Yeah, I agree with that. I also like the idea that Neelix's happy persona is there to hide the trauma from his past. Not sure if that was the writer's intent. Yeah, Neelix. You always keep in mind that Neelix has had a pretty tragic past. He's lost everything, and he starts off in the pilot episode. He starts off as this really selfish, self-centered, me kind of character, and then when he happens upon the Voyager crew and becomes a member of the crew, he starts learning how to be a better person. And he finds, I think he finds comfort in being that person because it does help with the pain of the past. And when he starts, I think in the episode Fair Trade, when he starts becoming who he was previously again, I don't think he likes it. He doesn't feel comfortable. So he in some ways, he gains a lot of morality with the Voyager crew. I quit Picard when Icheb lost his eye. I quit Picard after episode 2. What they did to Icheb was fucking horrendous. Doing that to any character, it was just inexcusable to me, and it was just a torturous scene. And we all know it was simply because of the actor who played the original character. We all know that's why they did what they did. That's why they wrote what they wrote. And that's why because they do it all the fucking time. And it really fucking upsets me. It really pisses me off that they do that sort of shit. It's fucking horrendous. It's a character. Why disrespect a fucking character like that people really got to know and got to love? You fucking psychopathic wankers. I fucking hate you. You fucking tossers who do New Trek. I like Voyager more than DS9. Too dark and too religious. Yeah, DS9 did have that problem. There was a lot of Bajoran stories in Deep Space Nine, but I thought if there was a little less of the religious stuff, it would have been a good story about the dangers of religion and the perils, the pitfalls, but also the positives of spirituality and belief and everything. Voyager was a Trek light show. It was safe, and it needed to be a little bit more challenging. I think DS9 was more challenging of a show than Voyager, but Voyager was still, like you said, perfectly serviceable in some episodes and just comfortable. The characters weren't the best, but they weren't the worst. And compared to anything that New Trek has produced, Star Trek Voyager is the equivalent of gold press platinum. It's made Voyager so... Dangers of Religion, that would be June. Yeah, you're not wrong there, pal. Although the war was nice to see, yeah. I would have liked to have seen some more crossovers with that war, though. A lot more. And I think it was costly to our characters and to the Federation, which was good. I've got 5 more minutes and then I'm going to have to shoot. So, say what you will. Say what you must say. Say what you want to say, and I shall answer. And Clayton, if you're still watching, we will have to do that live stream. If anybody else is interested in doing a live stream with me, you're more than welcome to get in touch. I do have a list of some guests that are upcoming. There's some people. There is a queue forming, but we will get to that. And I think my next subscriber I'm going to be talking to is Zell. Zell isn't here right now. I've not seen Zell. But if Zell is watching, we will get together and have that live stream very, very soon. I know you're a very busy man. I am also a very busy man, so we will get together at some point. So yeah, that's Star Trek Voyager, and that's generally what I think of Voyager. It's serviceable in places. That's fine. You kept me in bed for an extra hour. Well, I'm glad I've got you some uses, mate. On a Sunday, I can't fault you. I woke up late as well. I still laugh my arse off when I hear the President of the Federation. The President of the Federation. Wasn't it Stacey something? It's a Democrat, wasn't it? In Discovery? Oh. Oh, God. When Star Trek really just dove off the deep end. It dove off the fucking deep end, didn't it? Oh, Stacey Abrams, isn't it? President of the Federation. I'm President of the Federation. DS9 did it better. He had the dog face man. Oh. And I never sought to be elected. Now things are getting difficult. I wish I wasn't. I'd still choose him over Stacey Abrams. Is it Stacey Abrams? I might be butchering the name. Getting the name wrong. God. Yo, yeah, so terrible. And Section 31 supposedly filming. The only solace I take in knowing that more new Trek is on the way is that I can review it and be as cynical as ever. But I enjoy, as you can see, I enjoy talking about things I like as well, which is nice. But that will keep the channel going for a bit. Section 31. It's Michelle Yeoh, isn't it? It's still going to be Michelle Yeoh. Take 2 of Star Trek's most dystopian themes, mirror universes in Section 31, and make a show out of it. Yeah, fat one, yeah. Yeah, make a show out of it, why not? They got a hard on for Section 31, haven't they? They are like a proper stiffy for Section 31. And they've got I regret not getting the old shows on DVD. You can still get them. Go on eBay, mate. They're cheap as chips. Cheap as chips, and they're really nice box sets as well. I've got them all downstairs. They are really nice. You can get them at a discount now. Can't believe how New Trek screwed up Section 31. Yeah, Section 31 was this organisation that had no base, had no foundations. I don't even know if they actually officially had any ships. They don't have any headquarters. The entire organisation exists in the minds of the people that are part of the organisation. As Sloan said, there's no one office that looks like this. There's no headquarters. All the information is kept up here. Section 31 is as fluid as they come. They are so secretive they don't exist, but they do, and they only exist in the eyes of the operatives. I don't know, AI upscaled the DVDs for myself. Nice. We've just invested in a new television because the old one's got lines going across it, and we went to a 60 frames per second television. God, everything looks so like you're there. It's almost too immersive. Why Section 31 and not the Tal Shiar, which are the best spy organisation? Which is the best spy organisation? Tal Shiar is ruthless as fuck, but the Section 31 give them a run for the money at the times. In classic Trek, not new Trek. They didn't have ships. They weren't even portrayed as evil, and those stupid black badges. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I work for a secret organisation. I'm going to have a black badge to let everybody know that I work for a secret organisation. How fucking stupid do you have to be as a fucking writer to even get into Star Trek to say, oh, I'm going to write some Star Trek, are you? Okay, your secret organisation, what makes them so secret? Well, they got black badges. Fuck's sake. Oh, I put a black badge on. I'm a secret mission. Look, it's black. Yeah, I can't tell you who I am. Fucking Section 31. This is Section 31. It's so secret. We've got a badge for it. You did it. Got me talking about New Trek again. Oh, so stupid, isn't it? It's like I see this mass hijacking of the fandom for Star Trek. I see it all over the fucking place. Didn't they butcher Section 31 in DS9? Didn't they butcher Section 31 in DS9? No, Section 31 was born in DS9. They only captured Sloane. I think there was points, certain ridiculous points about Section 31, but Section 31 was born in from DS9. Perfect 31. Oh, God. Yeah, Section 31 I thought was really interesting. They got some Section 31 books as well, which I've not read yet, but I do have downstairs. I might start reading the Section 31 books. I quite like the concept. But it's like New Trek. They just pick a particular aspect or facet that they like, and they go, right, let's write some stories about this, okay? Firstly, we're going to have the secret organisation that has the black badges that makes it perfectly obvious that you got your secret organisation, yeah? And then we're going to have them taken over by little robots and make people think that they're going to be the Borg. And then we'll write about the tardigrades that have the special mushrooms. The ship travels on a mushroom cloud, and then it can go instantaneously around the universe and be like, oh, we're doing warp 10, but we're not going to turn into salamanders. And then we're going to have the ensign, and she's really overweight, and she's going to outrun the little Asian guy. And then we're going to have the Space Jesus character, and she's going to be flying the ship all over the place, and she's going to save the day every single day. And she's going to be best friends with a really big girl who outran the little Asian guy. And then we're going to have the ship that does the twirly thing, and then it goes into the future, and then with the Federation, it's all dead, you see, and it's all been destroyed because this one guy had a really bad anger attack and blew off all the dilithium. All the dilithium's been blown up in the sky, and then. And all the Federations at a big standstill, and they were hiding. You see, the Federation's just hiding in this space station with this cloaking field around it, and then Space Jesus comes in and gives everybody dilithium again, and everybody's saved. And then we got this unnamed species called we can't think of a name for it right now, so we just decided to make it. An unnamed species, Tennessee, and then they're from another dimension, in this really stupid dimension, and then they're coming in from another galaxy and making everything worse again. And then we've got a Democrat. The Democrat comes in, he's the president of the Federation, and then we got a funny guy with the shapeshifters, and we got the funny guy called Buck. He talks real funny because he's English. And then the space Jesus so stay and go underneath she was destroying everything, and then she comes in the safe state. Now how's that for a show? That is Star Trek show if I ever saw one. That's a Star Trek show. That's what we do for Star Trek. And then we write a sequel to Picard. We're gonna write a sequel to Picard. We're gonna have Picard being an old man in the chateau. And he's going to be useless. And everyone's just going to talk to him like a person. Like a priest. Everyone's going to treat him like a stupid old man. He's going to get blown up and floating across the sky. That's what we do. We ruin Star Trek. Yeah, it sounds good, doesn't it? I don't know where that came from. I'm really sorry. Sorry. Jesus. I really went off on one there. I am so sorry. What's the Klingon spy organization? Can't remember. The Klingon one. Klingon spy organization. You got the Tal Shiar, you got the Obsidian Order. I'm not mentioning the new Trek one. The Zodvoth. The Zodvoth. I don't know. Let's have a child cry and blow up every starship in the universe. Yes. The Obsidian Order is Cardassian. That's right. Yeah. Was going to respond to the DS9 Section 31 comment, but Danger Man covered my thoughts. Oh, bless you. I do try to read minds every now and then. Space mushrooms. Yeah. Even monkeys can write better than scared child blows up the lithium. Yeah. But I think a Southerner would be able to write truer Trek than Hollywood. You need to learn an LA accent. I don't know. What's the LA accent sound like? I don't know. I tend to just default to certain accents. I'm sorry. Enjoyed that tangent. I just think I think it was just Klingon intelligence. Yeah, it was. Well, enjoyed that tangent. Thank you. Well, you're welcome. It was literally just. Because I think they're so fucking stupid. Anyway, that's gonna have to be. I'm gonna have to call it now. I called it about 15 minutes ago. I'm gonna have to call it now because I'm desperate for a pee, and we've got to get some dinner. I've got to get on with my evening, and I've got to tidy up, and I've got to, do a dance around the fire. I don't know. I do have to sort of get going. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining. If you haven't already, then please feel free to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button on the stream. And if you like something a little different, pop over to the repairs channel. It's UK Danger Man Repairs, and give that a look because I do some repair stuff on there as well. Take care and have a good night, Danger Man, and take care, chat. Thanks, Reva. It's great to have you here. Alex, LA accent is kind of effeminate with a lot of like in it. Oh, God. 22, thank you for the discussion. Thank you for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure to do this stream. It has been a while since I've done one. And I will have a nice threshold day. Yeah, you too, mate. Try not to turn into sushi now. I will get in touch with Clayton, and we'll try and arrange a date where we can do a stream discussing our favourite Deep Space Nine episodes, and then eventually our favourite Star Trek Voyager episodes. January 29th, I think. Oh, I've missed it. I missed Threshold Day. I'll have to do a stream on Threshold Day next year. That sounds brilliant. Anyway, until the next time, you look after yourselves. You look after one another. I'm going to end the stream here. I'm not going to say go away now or any kind of cliched line like that. Those lines belong to their creators. I'm just going to say goodbye.